So I want you guys to just watch this gameplay because I think it truly shows how powerful this build can be. Just watch the end of this LFG Grandmaster run. So we're just a random group of people put together. It's only about 5 minutes long, so just give me 5 minutes of your time and I promise you that the next time you play Void Hunter and use this build, you will have some of the most fun you've ever had on a Void Hunter. I can guarantee that. I never thought I'd see the day when a Void Hunter could just run straight into groups of enemies and handle them with ease. You can jump straight into champions and mini bosses and come out untouched. We're taking advantage of the new Hunter aspect on the prowl and combining it with some nice buffs to accomplish what you're seeing. The true catalyst behind this entire build is the cloud of smoke that you leave everywhere on the battlefield. You have 4 different ways of triggering this cloud of smoke, and you can easily have 3 or 4 clouds up at once in groups of enemies. Now this is a disorienting smoke cloud. Enemies caught in the cloud will take damage over time. It also puts the 15% weaken debuff on all enemies that it hits. And I want you guys to think of disorient as basically the blind debuff on the arc subclass. It's when enemies put their hand over their face, they won't even shoot at you, they just walk away, and that's one of the strongest debuffs in the game right there. So this cloud of smoke just adds great survivability to yourself, to your team because you're crowd controlling enemies, and you're putting that 15% weaken debuff on everybody. Also, some of your clouds of smokes can make you invisible and your allies invisible when they pass through it. So it's doing a lot for you. Now, since we have so many ways of activating these clouds one after the other, you can safely weave through enemies and annihilate anything that stands in your path. Now first I need to mention 2 weapons you can take with this build. I played it with both of these and they both feel great. First off is the new rocket sidearm from last week, the Lotus Eater. You want to make sure you have one with repulsor brace. Because you're setting off these weakening clouds, and your grenade is going to weaken, you have 4 cloud sources that I already said, and your grenade weakens, so you have 5 total sources that enemies are just going to be weakened on the field. So when you get one single kill with that rocket sidearm, repulsor brace will proc and give you a full void overshield. This is your main source of survivability in terms of damage reduction. If you don't get that damage reduction on void, then it feels so much more squishy because all you're counting on is just devour to heal you. But in difficult content, things hit very hard, and if you don't have that source of damage reduction, you're going to feel it. So that's the first weapon. Make sure you have one just with repulsor brace. The second weapon, which you see in the gameplay, is Buried Bloodline. You guys probably all know how great this weapon is. Of course it doesn't have repulsor brace, right? But it does weaken on hit when you have Devour, which I always have active. So I'm getting my overshield from an artifact mod combined with Buried Bloodline. So after this season is done, I'll probably use the rocket sidearm here instead with repulsor brace, since I won't be getting the Void Overshield from Buried Bloodline. But Buried Bloodline still feels great. I almost have 10k kills on it, and I just really like this weapon. Smoke Bomb is our melee ability, and it's our first source of creating that cloud of smoke. Again, it disorients enemies, it weakens them, and it damages them over time. Now we take Gambler's Dodge with the build. When you dodge near an enemy, you get your melee back. So now you have a second Smoke Bomb on demand, and we're going to make sure we have that class ability up all the time to just make sure we always have a Smoke Bomb available. Make sure to take Vortex Grenade. It's still the strongest grenade on Void. I know it has a longer cooldown, but we're going to make up for that cooldown by getting 30% of our grenade back in just one single kill. I'm going to show you guys how we do that. Now for your 2 aspects, of course, on the prowl is the first one. When you enter invisibility from any source, you'll mark a target. Defeating that target will create a weakening cloud of smoke that makes you and your allies invisible when passing through it. Now another really cool thing about this is when you defeat the priority target, you and nearby allies will gain the weapon reload speed and stability, and you guys are also granted grenade, melee, and class ability energy. That's 15% to each of those, and you're giving it to yourself and your entire team. So On the Prowl is doing a lot more for you than you think. I know the targeting on it can be a little bit wacky at sometimes, but in all of these LFG Grandmasters, it felt really good to use, and even if a champion was marked, we're so strong now that even champions go down very quickly, and you can get through marked targets very fast. For your second aspect, we'll take Stylus Executioner. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight. And then after you perform the Stylus Executioner, your next melee attack while invisible weakens targets. That'll pair nicely with our super, and of course we're going to take Spectral Blades as you see in the gameplay. You can make it last from 20 to 25 seconds easily, whether that's on a single target like the boss you see, or just going through groups of enemies. So if they're just small enemies like red bars or yellow bars, I would just do the heavy attack, the one that does the uppercut and makes you invisible, because that targeting on that one is a lot better. Now when you're on higher health targets like a champion or a boss, then you can perform the light attack over and over and then hit the heavy attack to go back in invisible. That light attack will connect much more on a bigger target. So we have 2 smoke bombs with Gambler's Dodge, and we have On the Prowl as another smoke source. And we'll add the 4th one in a second. First, let's go over the fragments. We'll take Echo of Harvest. Defeating weakened targets creates an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. That Void Breach is just going to feed our class ability back, and then those Orbs of Power we create feed right into our next fragment, which is Echo of Starvation. Picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants you Devour. Nobody will beat you in how many Orbs of Power you're going to spawn with this build, just from Echo of Harvest alone. It has a 10-second cooldown, but every 10 seconds you are killing something that's weakened because of your multiple smoke clouds. So you're always going to be generating these Orbs of Power and Void Breaches. Now when you have Devour active, you get that health on kill, right? And you get grenade energy on kill. You're going to have Devour up all the time, so when you're killing things, especially a marked target by On the Prowl, you're getting the energy refund to your grenade from Devour and from On the Prowl. So when you're combining those two, you'll see your grenade jump so fast, which is why I like to take Vortex Grenade. We'll also take Echo of Persistence. Void buffs apply to you, which is our Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour. We're taking all three of those, have increased duration. Devour and Overshield have a 50% increased duration, and Invisibility has a 40% increased duration. For the last two fragments, we'll take Echo of Remnants. It makes that Vortex Grenade last longer on the field. It just adds extra damage. And Echo of Undermining, your Void Grenade's weakened target. Technically, you could drop these two and slot in something else if you want, especially if you're not using Vortex Grenade. But I like to have another weakening source with Vortex Grenade, and when we pair this combo with one of our artifact mods, it'll allow that Vortex Grenade to give you a full Void Overshield over and over every time you throw it. So it's just another source of damage, weakening, and survivability, which is why I like these two fragments with Vortex Grenade. Now for our exotic of choice, we're going to take the Gwizzin Vest. I know, who would have thought that I'd be running a Gwizzin Vest and Spectral Blades on a Void Hunter, but here I am. And I had a blast doing this. Gwizzin Vest got updated this season. The most important part here is exiting invisibility while near a target creates a cloud of weakening smoke around you. This is a 15-meter range, so it's pretty big. And since you're always proccing Stylus Executioner because everything is weakened on the field, you're exiting out of invis every 4 seconds. So you're proccing this extra smoke cloud every 4 seconds right around you within a 15-meter, which means that weakens something that's around you. When you kill it with a Rocket Sidearm or Buried Bloodline, you then just get the full Overshield again and you go back invisible because they're weakened. You can see how you can loop this over and over, right? And the second perk on Gwizzin Vest is each Spectral Blade hit or final blow before you go invisible will restore more of your super energy. So on easier targets, this is where I just do that heavy attack over and over and it keeps refunding super energy and lets me roam quite a ways. But against a higher health target, you can spam your light attack about 6 or 7 times, then hit your heavy attack, and you'll get a big chunk of that super bar back. It's what allows you to do decent damage. Now I'm not saying this is just meta and the best damage ever, but as you can see in the gameplay, I actually think it holds its own on Void Hunter, considering that Void Hunter is not the best offensive force, but we're turning it into that with this build. For stats on the build, just aim for 100 resilience. Again, this is 30% damage reduction in all activities, and then you can push your mobility up and your discipline up. Mobility would be my second choice because that just plays into our dodge. And as long as you have a dodge up, you get an extra smoke bomb, right? Dodging near an enemy, and that's just another weakening source. You guys can copy these armor mods and the artifact mods. Everything is there for you on the screen. It's all pretty simple. My armor charges go to Special Finisher just to make sure I always have special ammo in whatever sidearm that I'm using. And then for the artifact mods, the most important one is still going to be Maligned Harvest if you're using Buried Bloodline, because the boost on that mod is applying Weaken provides a small Void Overshield. When you have Devour active and you're using Buried Bloodline, everything you hit will be weakened on hit, which means you're getting a chunk of Void Overshield on every shot that you hit with an enemy. That's how you keep that Void Overshield up with Buried Bloodline the most. But of course, if you're using the new Lotus Eater Rocket Sidearm, you're just proccing Repulsor Brace and you don't need to worry about that. And that's the way I'm going to go after the season is done, because it'll guarantee the damage reduction I need on Void Hunter along with Devour for that healing and survivability. I really hope you guys found this video helpful and you enjoyed it. It's some of the most fun I've had on a Void Hunter in a long time, and I promise you, if you guys set this up, you will not be disappointed if you learn how to use all those different smoke cloud sources and be aggressive on a Void Hunter. Even in the gameplay you saw in the boss room, I rezzed a couple of my teammates probably 5 or 6 times in one of the examples I was showing. So it's truly powerful, but can also support the team like a Void Hunter should. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.